Okay, I have a fairly expensive Kenwood cassette deck here. And as you can see, the power comes in through the cord, it comes up here, and it goes to this little cap here into the switch, and there is no overcurrent protection of any kind inside this unit. So I'm going to cut this little cap off. I'm not going to untwist it because I don't want any little strands of wire falling on the board and shorting something out, so I'm going to just cut it. And I will bring this red wire back through. And I'll bring the cord wire back. I had to pull it back this way. So I'll zip it back this way. So I will slide this over some here. So I get a little vise up here. And we'll get our fuse block out. I have to be careful not to let any strands get into the unit. I'll twist them together here. I'll dip the wire into the rosin flux. And I'll use the solder I had on my iron to tin it. Okay, so I'll just put the end of this into the flux here. And I'll just wipe off the excess so I don't have too much on there like that. Put it down here. And wire it through like this. Okay, so I'll put some solder on my iron here. I'll put the wire in there like this. Okay, and I'll heat the terminal on the wire like that. And I'll put some more on there because that came out kind of shallow. I'll put some more on my iron here like this. Hold it down like that. Add it like that. It's still slightly shallow, so I'll add just a little bit more. I'll put more on my iron like this. There. Now we have a real nice solder joint there. Okay, so now we're going to have to get our red wire over here the way that I'll go under all of this down in here. And I'll use my pliers to reach down between all the components and bring the wire up. I'll make sure I'm not all wrapped around a whole bunch of stuff down here I don't want to be wrapped around. And I'm not. Okay, so let's turn this over and look at the other side. Boy, we got a real nice clean solder joint there. See how nice that is? So we're going to try to get the same thing on this side. I'm going to see if I can get this thing down here. I want to get down below all this here, and I don't want to get tangled up in everything. So what I'm going to do is poke this down, get down under everything. I'll reach down here and grab it with the pliers because my hands are too big. Okay, so we got it up here so in a way that it's now I'll twist these strands together, get into the flux. Tin the wire. Let's see if I can figure out a way to grab this so that okay, I'll do it this way. So I'll dip this in the flux again, a little on that side, a little on this side, then I'll take the excess off like that. I'll put some flux on the wire again. I'll put this under here to help make it get in here. Okay, I'm going to have to clean my tip. Okay, so I'm going to put some more solder on my iron here. Plenty on here because this is a smaller wire. I'm going to get my wire in through the hole here. Make it so that's coming up nice and straight. Keep both the terminal and the wire. This one's a finer wire, it came out kind of shallow, so I'm going to just add a little more solder there to it. Okay, now that I'm done with my soldering iron, I'm going to put some solder on it and tin it. And I'll set it down and unplug it and let it cool. So let's look at the back side of our solder joints. Okay, that looks slightly shallow here, so I'm going to add a little bit more here on the back. So I'll take a little flux here. And I'll put some flux here on the back side. Okay, so I'm going to hold that wire still. There, now we have a real nice solder joint on the back. Now I'll just flip it over and I'll look at the front when that cools and make sure it still looks good. Turn it over. And I have a nice full solder joint. Now I'll slide this insulation up because it melted and it just shrunk back a little bit. And yeah, let's see if I can move that insulation in a little bit because I want to make sure it's through the hole all the way. Yeah, I pushed it in a little bit. And I'll let it cool. Now let's look at it again here. Okay, my conductor is up through the hole down here. Now let's look at the back side here. And the wire is embezzled in the solder really good. But it ran up here a little bit and I don't really like that, so I'm going to I'm going to put some flux here on the back side and again on this side. And I'm going to hold it. I just put a little solder on my iron here. And I'll bring this solder back down. There, now we got a real good joint. Now that's how I like it to look, just like that. And I'll let that cool a second. I'll turn it over and show you the other side. And the other side came out really, really nice. See how nice that solder joint is? So we're going to clean these solder joints with alcohol and Q-tips. Okay, so we got some 90% alcohol here, so we're going to just clean these solder joints off. And I just want to make sure all the flux is out of it. I'll do the same on this side here. Okay, so we're ready to mount our block down in the chassis here. Okay, so we're going to put this down through like this. Okay, so I'm going to reach down and grab the black wire here from the cord. I'm not going to squeeze it really hard, I'm just going to pull on it. Gets it down here in a tight spot. I got wrapped around the wire there, so I gotta get that out of the way. Put the knot in the washer. Hey, I was lucky. That came out nice and straight down there. So I'll just stand this back up. Make sure everything's all nice and straight. I'm going to zip tie my wires here. Okay, so I'm going to eliminate this little zip tie here. Careful not to cut the wires underneath, so that's why I cut with the direction that the wires are going. So I'll get a zip tie down there, get the red wire in there. Tie it up. Now look at the black one from the cord. That's all out of the way of everything. Okay, so I'll flip this up and I'll just make sure that's all nice and snug. Okay, I'll put some Loctite on it to keep the screw from loosening up. Okay, so we'll put our 1 amp fuse in here. Tricky, it's down in a spot where it's going to be hard to reach. Okay, I had to fuss and putz a little bit off camera to pick the fuse up with my pliers, so I finally got it up where it's got to go. So I'll push it down in. And now this unit does have overcurrent protection, which the manufacturer and the engineers failed to install and require. So here's the size of the filament of the fuse we're putting inside the tape deck. See how tiny that is? And this is your typical house fuse. See how large that filament is? While it's taking time to burn out this house fuse, the unit can be drawing a lot of current, up to like 18 to 20 amps, and the line cord here is only rated for like 7 amps, and if that got hot enough, it can short out and catch a curtain on fire. Okay, now I'll show you things that can go wrong that can cause this power transformer to get short out inside the windings and get extremely hot. See these two bridge rectifiers here? If they short out, it can cause it to draw a lot of current, and this transformer can get hot, and the windings in the transformer can get shorted out inside. And while that's burning and getting hot, while it's taking time to burn a 20 amp house fuse, this 18 gauge wire that comes to the transformer is not rated for anywhere near that kind of amperage draw. It can potentially draw. Same as if like the power capacitor went bad here, or the voltage regulator, it can draw a lot of amperage off this transformer and cause it to short out inside. And while this is shorting out and burning inside, the primary can get hot and shorted, and it will take a lot of heat on this cord that comes in, and it can possibly melt the insulation and short out and catch a curtain on fire. So with that fuse in there, it will blow that before a fire starts. So I hope you enjoyed my video, and the reason I put those fuses in is for a basic fire prevention and safety reason. And before you do anything like that, consult with an authorized service center, because if it's done wrong, you can create a shock or fire hazard. Peace. Thanks for watching. And see the warning there on the top?